In this lesson, let's see what is patch function. Patch function is used to modify an existing record or creates a new record. Generally, we will use submit form to create a new record and update in the SharePoint list. Okay, so here without using that submit form, we can use patch. Sometimes our requirements may be so complex, so that we need to use this patch function. And here the patch function generally used to create or modify, and also it merges records outside of data source. Suppose if you have 5 fields in a form and there is another field outside of that, and you want to patch both which are inside of the form and outside of the form, so you can do it with the patch. So here at using patch we can only record at a time a single record. So, and if you want to do it more multiple records, we can use ForAll function here. Okay, so now here this patch function, to create a new record we need to use defaults function here, and the defaults function is to create a base record with the default values here. Okay, and this patch function is works very well with the PowerApps in the screen, so it will easily recognize the columns available in the SharePoint list. So in this example, in the demo, we will make use of a SharePoint list along with our Canvas app. Okay, now go and create a Canvas app. So it's loading now. Now let's skip it, and the first thing you need to do is go to SharePoint and check or create if any list is available for this patch. So now I have already created a list with the name my tasks here. So in the my tasks, the title will be the task name, and the due date will be the due date here column, date column, and here the status column will be the choice one. Okay, so we can see here the title, due date, status, and the assigned. So now let's go to the list settings and see what type of columns we have created in the SharePoint. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see all the columns we have created in this list. Title is by default, it will come, and it will be the name of the task name. So here the status is the choice field, and in that we have some choices: in progress, not started, and completed. Okay, now let's go back and come to PowerApps. Now let's add these list to our PowerApps application. So go to add, connect the SharePoint connector here, and when you select the SharePoint, it will ask us to select the SharePoint site. Here our SharePoint site is SharePoint lessons. Okay, in that SharePoint lessons, if you select, you can see the my tasks list. Select that my task lists. Once you select this list will be connected with this PowerApps application. Let's clear all the data in the SharePoint lessons site and my tasks list, and now refresh again this. Okay, and now let's create the fields one by one. So I'm not using here any form, edit form or something like that. I'm just taking the individual controls, and I will patch this into the SharePoint list. Now let's take a label here and name it as before that, let's add a beautiful background for this screen. Let's search any beautiful school background or students related thing here. I already saved somewhere here. it's loading up. Okay, so select this one. Okay, now let's see the cool background for this screen, and now let's start dragging one by one labels and text boxes. So now let's add a header for this screen by selecting a rectangle from the icons. So extend this and bit little up, and now go to the home where you can select green color theme, and it will turns to green because you selected the green color theme. And now let's add one by one control here. Okay, so we can write this text on this header. So let's increase the font for this. And make it white color. And you can write the hint text. Okay, not required label for label, hint text generally we can write in here. And now drag the controls one by one, label and text box. Name this label as task. Let's zoom a bit so that it will be easy for us to see that. I'm zooming it. Okay, this is the task name, and let's copy these labels one by one because we need 3 labels here and 3 input boxes or dates or input controls. So task name, due date and status. Okay, now let's add the input controls. First of all, we need to add the text box, text input, and let's add the date now, date picker, and let's add the third one's drop down. So in this drop down the values will come from SharePoint list column. Okay, let's keep a button here to write the patch code, or patch function invocation will be happen in this button. Okay, now let's check one by one controls, input controls. Here in the text box there is a hint text. Okay, and you need to remove the text input here and configure now the status. So it is coming from the SharePoint list column status. Now we can configure it by choices and giving the name of the column. So column means my tasks dot status. So it will show the status now into that control, drop down control. Now you can see here, once if you done this, you can see in progress, not started and completed. Okay, now let's take a preview of this, and let's write now the patch code inside the patch button. Okay, so select the patch button, and one more thing I want to do is whatever I patched, it must be assigned to a gallery control, so that whatever we insert in the SharePoint list, it will be reflecting here, the data will be reflecting here. Okay, so that's why we are adding a gallery control here. So now let's write the code into the patch data button, and once if you patch anything, it will appear in this gallery control. So now let's select the date and select the status, not started, patch data. click patch data, and now we need to write the code here actually. So let's add code here. So let's add the code for this patch data. On select, you need to call the patch function, and you can see the say suppose the syntax, it must have one data source, okay, and a record. So since we are creating a new record, we need to use the defaults here, okay, patch of my tasks and defaults of my tasks, okay, comma. Now we need to write the parentheses here. In the parentheses, we need to match column name with the text controls in this screen, okay, title, text, input one dot text, okay. Now here we have due date. Here we can write due date. So the column names here and in the PowerApps must be equal, okay. Due date, date picker one dot selected date, selected date. So come down, and you can see here we have status. The status, we need to update the status to the SharePoint. So you need to write here status will come from drop down, so we can always write here drop down the selected text here. Now everything is looking fine. Click format text, everything is fine. Now let's go and see whether it will work or not. Let's see here and click here, come to preview now. So you can see here the patch function is having so the title, due date, status, defaults. We already know when we are creating a new record, we will use the defaults in the patch function, okay. Now what shall we do now? So let's go and take a preview here and just click the patch data, and if anything is there, it will go to the SharePoint list and it will be assigned to the gallery here. And let's add one more item in the gallery. We can add one more item in the gallery, so we can have a new entry which will be assigned to the gallery now. So I'm selecting it July 1st, and here I'm selecting in progress, and by clicking patch data, and you can see one more item has been patched at single patching here, single item at a time, okay. That is an example here. Now add one more item here, add one more item. So click patch, and you can see the last item you got. So now what we will do is like we will try to modify a record or item using the patch, okay. So now what I will do is I will create a label here, and I will write as mark as completed. So before that we need to say change the status to in progress or not started, okay, in the SharePoint list. Now we have 3 items here. So now let's write the patch function for individual item in the gallery, Okay, so for that I have taken a checkbox, a checked icon here. So we need to add an item into the gallery. We need to select one item and drag the other icon whatever you want, so that you will understand that you are going to add inside the gallery now. So okay, now select the check. So here my aim is to, if anybody clicks this check, the status of the status must change to completed here. Okay, so I have taken one more label which will tells that mark as completed. Okay, so let's see now. Right, mark as completed. So once if anybody like clicks this mark as completed, the status will become completed for completed here. So individually we must go and do this for all the 3 items. Okay, now write in the check icon, so to patch the uh, or modify the items. Now let's write here modify. Here we no need to write defaults here because it is just a modification. So patch of my tasks to recognize this particular item in the gallery, we need to write this item. Okay, after this item we can write the value of that particular column status. We can write this item is used to recognize the individual item in the gallery. So this item comma, we need to open parentheses and write the required one is status and status, and the value will be completed. Okay, this update we need to do status value completed in the double quotes we can write completed. Now quickly write one more thing. If anybody clicks here this checkbox kind of thing, and the output mark as leader must be disabled here. The mark as completed will be normal, but this checkbox control will be disabled here. Okay, this circle check. So for that we need to go to the display mode. In the display mode we need to write a simple if condition. If this item dot state value equal to completed, so in any record in the gallery is like the status value is completed, then we need to disable this, or we need to disable this completely, or we can get some information. Display mode dot edit, display mode dot edit. Okay, now if you click anything, now it will become disabled and the status will show as completed, because here marking the status, right? So let's see, it's completed, and also it will be updated into the SharePoint list. Let's go and check in the SharePoint list once. So you can see it is showing completed. Now it is like modifying an item in the gallery. Okay, now sometimes the customers will ask something more than this. They want to modify all items at a time. Okay, if they want to do something so we need to like write patch my tasks and this item. So this item will recognize the item here. Okay, now here see, it's patched with the status column completed. Okay, it's the beauty of the patch function here. And now here we are modifying single items here in a gallery. Now what if we want to update all the items in the gallery? Okay, let's see that one also. Before that, let's change the status columns items. Let's change the items. Now let's add a button here which will say patch all the data at a time here. Okay, for that we can have a button here and we can keep on the top of that gallery. So these will be the customer requirements generally. So in that button we need to write the ForAll function here. Okay, now let's see how to this ForAll function with the patch. So now in the button on select we need to write that ForAll. Invoke the ForAll function for all. Okay, let me add some comments here so that the people understand. Okay, now let's write our patch function so that it will identify and all these things and modify all the things. So for that we need to write for all, and it will ask for the source. You can give the source as gallery1 or dot all items. Okay, now comma, here we need to recognize the record, so that's why we need to write a patch here for all patch and patch of my tasks. My tasks here. So after that we need to write the very important thing here which will recognize the ID. Okay, so now we can write ID colon this record dot ID. This is the key point here so that the ForAll will work for us. And the status, you give normal value completed. So now let's go and check. Let's go and check here format, and let's go and take a preview. Preview here, we have written ForAll and we are iterating here. We can say it, we are iterating the gallery items here. Okay, we have added patch. Now let's go to preview and patch all the tasks, and it will change the status. Now click, and now you can see all the status will be changed to completed with the disabling of the check box on the right. Check mark also disabled and the status completed. Let's check whether it is happened in the SharePoint list, and the SharePoint list also got updated with the completed status value. Okay, this is so we can make learn the fundamentals of patch. Okay, so let's get into the Next, more advanced things on the patch. Okay,